All right, everyone. We are back for episode 11 of Stub Luv Live. Hope everyone's well out there. We've got a great guest. We've got Fav on tonight, and pretty excited to see him up. I see people joining. Boy, we got tickets with Tay. We got Brandon Johnson. I see Dave on. Here we go. Scott Foraker. Wow. Someone's saying no sound. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me? Oh, people are saying good. Probably is on your end. Everyone, hello. I don't see Fav yet. I see Josh. Oh, I see tickets and slabs, but I don't see that. Let me see. Go live with him.
Oh, let me turn that around.
There he is, the man. What's up, Fav?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. Hey, we got people here saying Fav's doing the late night shift. He is for us.
Yeah, it's midnight where I am, in Cambridge in the United Kingdom. But yeah, it's a late one, but it's a pleasure to kind of be up and stay up for it.
Well,
So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. If no one knows, or the people who are out there don't know who Fav is a big name on the ticket Discord. He's very popular amongst the collectors of, I'll call them football tickets, soccer tickets, Olympic tickets. And I have to tell you, Fav's one of the nicest guys. I have reached out to Fav to be able to give us. Look, people are saying he's the GOAT. I agree. He's a wealth of information. He's free with his information, which just again, good guy, good person, and has helped me out a lot. So thank you so much, Fav, for coming on.
No, it's a complete pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. I'm honoured. So yeah, thanks.
So let me ask you this, Fav. Before we kind of get into the ticket collecting aspect of what you've got and going through the interview with you, talk to me a little bit about, and maybe some people out there don't know what it is. What is the ticket Discord?
So the Discord is primarily, I guess I describe it as somewhere between WhatsApp and a forum. So the conversations that happen in there are a lot more live, and conversational in nature. So the Ticket Discord was a Discord that was created the best part of about 3 years ago. It was done so without any knowledge of boogers actually existing as a forum, and had we known that boogers existed, I don't think that the Ticket Discord would have existed. But primarily, it started off as a selection of UK-based soccer collectors who were kind of finding a bit more of an interest in going after debuts and moments, which hadn't, I think, classically been a collecting interest, I don't think, for a lot of people in Europe. So yeah, that's how it began. It's now at probably about 300 members strong. So it's still tiny compared to boogers, but yeah, the conversations that are there, they're live. They encompass all sorts now, much wider than just soccer. But the collecting base is still, I would say, predominantly European. Yeah, it's just a great place to sort of have a conversation, lighthearted, about tickets.
Yeah, I joined and I go on every so often, but a lot of I look at a lot of the content on there. A lot of good folks, a lot of people that I don't know, but I'm trying to get to know because they're international, and ticket collecting is international. So talk to me too. You're a PSA ticket authenticator. I know that started, some time ago. What's your specialty, and what do you focus on for PSA?
So it's predominantly soccer. I would say that it started about November of kind of 2022. I had a call from Matt Fuller at the time, and we got talking. That was off of the recommendation, and I think at the time it was one of those things where I was apprehensive to to be honest. I have a full-time job in the UK, and I wasn't really sure how it would kind of dovetail with that. But actually, almost the best part of nearly 18 months on from that, it's been really it's been a really interesting time to sort of be involved in ticket grading and authentication in general. But yeah, I mean, my purview is predominantly soccer tickets, but I would say it's also, to an extent, things that are like European-based events. So if you think about an event like Live Aid took place at Wembley, which is a football stadium, and if you look at the sort of tickets that are issued by a place like Wembley Stadium, they're very similar, whether it's an FA Cup final or a World Cup final that might have taken place in 1966, or indeed Live Aid. So often the read acrosses between sports and non-sports can be, I think, quite broad in Europe.
Okay.
But yeah, I would say that European-based events, which I think have probably been quite nascent in the last, I would say anything but the last few years, since this sort of surge of interest has become my sort of wheelhouse.
Cool.
So yeah, that's kind of what I look after. Yeah.
Hard to say no to that Matt Fuller guy, huh? He's he's one of those guys, right?
Yeah, very hard to say no to that.
Yeah. So what got you started collecting tickets?
That's a really good question. I had, I think, principally just kind of been interested in cards and stickers when I was in the thick of the pandemic. I think, like a lot of people. So I'm not going to attest to being a collector of decades long. It's still for me, it's probably about 4 or 5 years that I've been collecting, probably 4 years. And to be honest, with cards and stickers, you just get priced out of the market very, very quickly. Whereas with soccer tickets in particular, I was finding that I was getting objects and ephemera of real significance for a fraction of the price. And I was just finding the hunt for these items and objects just much more fulfilling, much more satisfying, and addictive, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
And it started off as, I think if you were to speak to me kind of 3.5 years ago, I think I would have said I'm a soccer ticket collector, but it snowballed into kind of what I collect now, which is a bit of everything, really. I like to think that the mainstay of my collection is still soccer and the Olympics, and those are 2 areas where I feel like I know them quite well. I rarely stray outside of my comfort zone. But yeah, that's how I started collecting. It was just a really low entry point for collectibles of significance for me. And yeah, I just got addicted to it. And yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, no. So are there any? So what do you think your first ticket was that you acquired? Do you remember it?
Yeah, I do. It was Cristiano Ronaldo's professional debut. So his first game as a professional athlete for Sporting Lisbon. And at the time, I think there'd been a handful that had been graded by PSA, but there was no real market for kind of soccer tickets. So it was very, very empirical as a search. You sort of, were thinking, well, if this was going to be listed on a marketplace, would it be a marketplace in the US or the UK? Probably not. You're probably going to have to scratch beneath the surface and find a sort of proxy in Portugal, and that's how it all started. So it was kind of a kind of hitting a dead end very quickly and then looking for another alternative to then sort of jump down the rabbit hole and kind of see where that went. And so I think that particular pursuit, and it was very focused at that time for that specific ticket, took the best part of about 2 or 3 weeks, and ultimately it was, fruitful. And it's actually a pretty low grade example. I don't think I've actually brought it out with the tickets that I have with me. But
yeah, I was hoping you have it. Yeah, let's see it.
I'm not actually sure I have it actually off with me, which is unfortunate. I think I have kept it secluded, unfortunately.
Okay.
But it's not a high grade example. It's actually it's been written on with the score, and it's a ticket I'm incredibly fond of because it's not that sort of butterfly effects of everything else that have collected since. So,
it was there, and it's got character. I like tickets like that too. Is there a kind of lucky find for Fav where you scored some gold and were able to find something that was pretty valuable for not all that much in the way of money?
Yeah. God, I think I've been quite lucky, actually. I think in my time sort of collecting, when I did start sort of to branch out with from soccer in particular, some of the areas in which I was kind of focusing in was the Olympics, and I think the pursuit for some of those soccer tickets have taught me quite a lot, like kind of how to find tickets. So going into territory, being unafraid of using tools like Google Translate. This example, which is probably quite pertinent because I know that we transacted on one. So this is my Black Power Salute ticket, and this set me back $75. So for me, this was kind of like at the time. I mean, I wasn't really aware of the worth of it. It just felt like a really good deal, and so I was really lucky with that, for example. But I feel like even the Cristiano Ronaldo example that I already mentioned, that although the time took about 3 weeks to actually unearth it actually, I think, only cost about €25, which is less than $50. So I think in those early days, especially with soccer, where the collector base was kind of few and far between, there were a lot of bargains to be had. So yeah, I think I've been relatively fortunate in kind of unearthing a few gems.
You're so proper in the way that you say it, but we all watch Tickets and Slabs on Instagram, and we see all of those little golden nuggets that you're posting. I got to tell you, as someone who follows you on Instagram, you're always finding stuff, great stuff, concert tickets, unique Olympic events. Everything.
Yeah. I mean, the Olympics is just kind of, it's become kind of my real focus recently. I've become slightly obsessed with sort of picking out those moments that have resonated with me sort of throughout my career, and a lot of them tend to be on the bizarre end rather than the sublime. So yeah, it's become a bit of an obsession, some of these tickets. So yeah, and particularly in the Olympic realm, I think it's very, very easy to find yourself jumping straight down into the rabbit hole looking for a specific ticket. Yeah, I mean, very recently I've been looking for, I was talking with someone at work who's a big gymnastics fan, and we've been talking about all sorts of controversies that have happened in the Olympics. So I can't quite remember, it might have been 2000 or 2004, but there's a I think one of the all-around gymnastics events had the vault that was and loads of the female competitors were basically missing their landings, and it turned out that the vault was, I think, 30 centimeters lower than it should have been. I just think that the story behind that is just amazing, and it might not actually be a very coveted ticket, but it's still it's kind of a really interesting story behind it. And yeah, I think the Olympics is full of moments like that. So yeah, it's become a bit of an obsession,
Yeah,
and it's easy to do, I think, with tickets.
I've seen it, and that's good. We enjoy watching it. So, what'd you bring? What do you got? What are the goodies?
Uh,
Let's see some tickets, Fav.
yeah, okay. So I have brought along the weird and wonderful. So I've got a few Olympics things, but I thought I'd kick off with my with a bit of music. Actually, I know that I've been collecting together sort of a set of last concerts, but particularly last concerts from individuals that sort of died at the age of 27. So I've got Kurt Cobain here, and this is Jimi Hendrix, and then I've also got Amy Winehouse here. I'd like to kind of continue to build on that collection. So I've seen Janis Joplin around. I'd love a Jim Morrison. Things like that would be great. But whether they'll come on the market, I'm not sure whether they will. So I've got to be satisfied with those three. But I really like that as a sort of trio. It works for me as a triptych.
That Hendrix ticket is just awesome. And here we go.
Yeah,
Justin Sutterfield. You got to watch out for Justin Sutterfield. He collects those.
Yeah,
and Mike Violi too. You got to watch these guys. They're going to be on you.
Just continuing on the theme of last concert. So I brought along a sub that I almost sent away actually tonight, but then I've kind of stalled a little, and that has this, which I shared on my page recently. So this is from the Notorious B.I.G.'s final public appearance at the 1997 Soul Train Music Awards. There's another kind of piece that kind of fits within that broad sort of canon of last concerts. There's also this as well, which is from Sid Vicious's last concert with the Sex Pistols.
That's great. That's an awesome ticket.
Yeah, this is a really nice one. This came, I think, from the estate of Bill Graham, who's the sort of concert impresario. So that's, I think there are a surprising amount of these out there, but I don't think that many of them have been graded actually. So they're out there. And then kind of, continuing on the theme of, I suppose, concerts and things like that, there's the sort of slightly weirder, wonderful kind of thing. So there's this, which I kind of wish that the UK concert tickets were as elegant and as small as these, but this is from when the Rolling Stones played "Gimme Shelter" for the very first time.
Wow.
So they recorded it a couple of nights before this concert in Colorado. And you look at any kind of list of all-time great sort of rock and roll songs, that appears right in the kind of top 10. I love like kind of unearthing bits like that where you can kind of do a bit of research and then look for the items. No Oasis tickets actually. So I'm afraid no Oasis tickets, but there's a Brit Awards ticket, which is I suppose the I guess British cousin of the Grammys, probably nowhere near as prestigious, I think, as the Grammys. This one's noteworthy because there's a kind of iconic dress that Jerry Halliwell from the Spice Girls wore, and kind of you talk about the Brit Awards in 1997 and Jerry Halliwell's dress, and everyone in Britain kind of will know what she was wearing on that night. So it's kind of like a really culturally astute sort of UK centric moment, and I think a lot of my collection tends to gravitate on the culturally important items to, I guess, myself, British millennial. So I think a lot of my own collection is a reflection of probably my own interests, really.
Which
might be different.
Bob, that's what it's supposed to be. You know,
Yeah,
that's what it's supposed to be.
yeah,
You know, your collection's going to be different than mine, and mine's going to be different than Justin's, and Justin's is going to be different than Sean's and Taylor's and everybody else. So that's nothing
yeah,
wrong with that.
exactly.
Can you show us? Do you have any soccer tickets? I mean,
Yeah,
Lord,
I
everyone
brought a
came to see
bunch
the big
along.
soccer tickets.
Yeah,
So
I brought a bunch along. The two kind of probably let's see, where do we begin? Actually, this is one that's come up on Boogers recently, and so this is when Manchester City won their first kind of Premier League in 2012. I think only a handful of these have been graded by PSA, but basically, they almost managed to lose the title in the dying seconds and basically won. So that's a really amazing moment if you follow Premier League kind of history at all. Then there's the kind of hottest property in world football at the moment. His name's Jude Bellingham. So I don't know if you've heard of him. So Jude Bellingham began his career at Birmingham City, which is kind of actually like a lower league club. Well, I say lower league, the second tier in the UK, because we have a promotion relegation sort of system. And there's his kind of professional debut, and that's his first professional goal. So those two as a kind of set are really cool. And I mean, he plays for Real Madrid now, and actually those are increasingly difficult to find. And then there's kind of other things that are. I brought along this kind of trio of Italian tickets that I have. Just because aesthetically, I think they don't get quite as much credit as they probably deserve, but the design on them is just beautiful, actually. So this is an Italian goalkeeper called Gianluigi Buffon. He sort of won the World Cup with Italy in 2006. He is one of the most sort of capped players for country, but also had over 1,000 appearances at club level. And then there's this, which is Maradona's debut for Napoli. Again, really ornate sort of looking ticket.
yeah, really.
And yeah, I think there's a third here, which is a kind of lesser known player, but again, the kind of design's like very different to what you might be used to if you've kind of seen non-soccer tickets. So I think the design, it's really cool on some of those tickets, which are probably less well known and feature players that are probably much more on the kind of enthusiast level when you're talking about soccer. So yeah, they're really interesting tickets, really interesting careers, and yeah.
Let me ask you this, Bob: if you had 3 tickets, 3 of your grails that you don't have yet, you're trying to acquire them. So Justin said, do you have a Bob Marley last ticket? Sounds like Justin probably does, and he wants to sell it to you or trade it to you. He probably wants that, Biggie Smalls last appearance. I smell that already. I smell Justin's motives. You gotta watch that cat. No, I'm just teasing. But I mean, are there 3 Grail tickets that you're looking for that you're dying to have as additions to your collection?
Yeah, I mean, so there are. So I think the first would be the 1985 Black Ball snooker final. So snooker is a kind of I don't know how popular it is in the US, but basically, I guess it's billions.
Let me interrupt you for a second. It's not that popular.
It's not. It's not that popular.
Pool's popular at bars. Popular. I don't think professional snooker is that popular, but let's hear it. This is cool. I want to know.
This is kind of an incredible kind of match that it was a best of 35 frames, and it's between an English player called Steve Davis, who was top of his game at the time, and a Scotsman called, actually I think it's a Northern Irishman called Dennis Taylor. My Sports Companion has written Dennis Taylor. Yes. And the story goes that so this game took place over 4 sessions on 2 consecutive days. And after the first session, Dennis Taylor was losing, I think, pretty much like 8-0. And basically he clawed his way back, and the game went down to the final frame and the final ball in the final frame. It was watched, I think, by kind of 20 million people in the UK. It's probably half the population at the time. The game finished at midnight. And it takes place in this really, really small theatre called the Crucible in Sheffield, which probably only holds about, I think, somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 people. So, like, snooker tickets in general seem to be really rare from the World Championships, but that one would be the one that I would want at all costs.
Have you ever seen one, Fav? Have you ever seen one?
Never seen one.
Never even seen one through PSA, through submissions.
Never seen one. If it ever materialised, that would be a kind of, I'd want that at all costs. It would be an incredible ticket. So that would be number one. Number two, I think James, my sports companion, says this is in my top 5 as well. Number two, so back on the theme of music, is a Clash gig that took place at the Palladium in New York. So this is famous because the cover of the Clash album London Calling features Paul Simonon smashing his guitar. It's from that gig, and so basically, I want that ticket. There's a detailed history of it being from one of the 2 nights that they played consecutively at the Palladium in New York. I've seen plenty of the wrong date, but yeah, none of the right date, unfortunately. So wait, certainly
never seen one before.
Never seen one before. It's got to be out there, though. I assume that there are people who. But that would be at all costs, I'd love to have that ticket. And then, gosh, I guess, going back to something like soccer, I think this is on the list of a lot of people, is to have a kind of Lionel Messi professional debut. So this is not the ticket that you see that's sort of superfluous, this Messi Porto one that's kind of almost the small one. This is a game against Espanyol. I've seen a few examples of this come through PSA. I wish they were mine. They're not. That would be a sort of grail piece for me. I think a handful have been graded, but it's eluded me. I think that's a ticket that's potentially a 6-figure ticket. Yes, maybe. I would say in the fullness of time, I guess. I think right now it would probably be a mid-4 ticket, personally, a mid-4 to high-4 figure ticket, rather than a kind of 5 or 6 figure one. But in the fullness of time, who knows? It could well be. Certainly, when you compare it to persons like Michael Jordan, who knows? It could well be. Yeah. So this is like the real Messi debut, not the friendly that we see, not the Porto ticket that's so popular and everywhere. How many of the actual Messi professional debuts have been graded by PSA? So I think it's below 10. It was a Barcelona derby, so it's kind of Taylor's saying it's top 5, so there'll be a 5. It's not. I think for years, the people that I knew just couldn't find it, and then one popped up, and then a couple more have materialised. So I think that's possible that there might be a few more that come out over time. But it was a Barcelona derby against Espanyol. For me, it's the true kind of debut of Messi. I think the Porto is sometimes misappropriated as the one to go for because of its superfluousness. But I actually think that the Espanyol game is the absolute kind of the one to go for. I know a couple of guys who have it. I'd love to take it off their hands, but sometimes you just have to enjoy things vicariously because, yeah, that's the game, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. Well, I have to tell you, your passion kind of for tickets just comes out when you talk about it. I'm looking at your face, I'm seeing your expressions, your emotions, and
that's really what makes you so great, Fav. And even when I talk to you and message you and ask you questions, you know, I see the way you respond. So anyone out there, I mean, I got to tell you, reach out to Fav if you got questions about any kind of international tickets, soccer tickets. He's just a tremendous resource. So Fav, let's run the gauntlet, you and I. You ready for it? I got some good ones
I've
for
got
you. Stub or full, my man?
Full.
Okay. This is an easy one. PSA, Beckett, or no slab? And Matt Fuller might be watching this one day, so be careful.
PSA. I think I'm gonna toe the line.
Yeah. Debuts or moments?
Debuts.
Why?
Debut.
Why debuts?
I started off as a debut collector, and I've been finding that it's a really easy way to keep a confined, ordered collection. I like that. I just like that. Yeah.
Okay. Signed tickets or unsigned tickets?
Signed tickets if I had the opportunity. Yeah.
Okay. A PSA 10 ticket or a PSA Pop 1 ticket?
I've only got one PSA 10 ticket, but it would be a PSA Pop 1 ticket, I think. Yeah.
Those graders at PSA, man, that PSA, they're tough. Man.
Yeah, they're tough. They're tough.
You gotta watch those PSA guys, I'll tell you. So here's another one. Are English people actually smarter than Americans, or do they just sound smarter because of the accent?
God, no, we're definitely smarter. No,
I figured.
no. We've just got accents. That's all it is.
So do you ever refer to football as soccer, or is that beneath you as a Brit?
I do it for convenience. I do it for the general convenience when I'm talking with ticket collectors. When I'm talking with friends, it's always football.
Okay. Yeah. I figured. You know, us Americans, it's just almost like crude, right? It's terrible. So I know this doesn't really exist. I know people talk about the Pele World Cup debut, but not really his debut. There's no such thing as the Pele debut. Is there a Maradona debut? Is there an official Maradona debut ticket? Not really.
Not
like the first time.
Really.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So not really again for club level, but the difference is that his international debut does exist, and it's a ticket I really want. It's a stunning ticket actually, and it comes in lots of different colorways.
Okay, so assuming there's a Pele debut or whatever the Pele debut ticket would be, or that Maradona ticket, which one does Fav want?
I'm a Maradona fan, which is going to probably upset a few people, but yeah, Maradona.
Wow, I didn't expect that. That. So not talking tickets, we're just talking in general. Messi or Ronaldo?
Oh, God. Ronaldo. Okay. Ronaldo for me.
Yeah. Who's hotter, Kate Middleton or Meghan Markle?
God, Kate Middleton.
Yeah, for me.
Kate Middleton for me.
Yeah, for me too. Meghan Markle's kind of like the side chick, right? You know, Kate Middleton's, you know, she's the one you married, right?
Exactly.
People are dogging you now, Bob, with that Maradona answer. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's crazy. They are. Well, Fav, I really appreciate you coming on. You can find Fav at Tickets and Slabs on Instagram. Please reach out to him if you've got any questions. He is just a terrific guy. Thank you very much. Episode 11 of Stub Luv Live is done. We're out. Thank you, Fav.
Pleasure. Take care.
Be well. Bye-bye.